Good morning and welcome to the Aviation and Transportation Subcommittee. I am joined by the Mayor, Thelda Williams, and Councilwoman Felicita Mendoza. So we have a rather big agenda, but the good news is a lot of it's on consent. And we don't seem to have any speaker cards to the public, so let's go ahead with the minutes of the meeting, the last meeting.
Move approval. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, and we also have the consent agenda, which is items 2 through 12. Do you, any preference to take anything off?
No, I've been briefed on it all, so I would move approval.
Same here.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So that brings us to information-only items. Does anyone want a briefing on the information items?
No.
Do you want any?
Oh,
Oh, I apologize.
oh,
I thought it was I'm sorry, I misread this. We do have a speaker card. I thought it said 17. I apologize. Shane Sullivan. So I think we don't need a presentation and perhaps just have him come up and speak. There he is. Thank you. I apologize. I guess I need new glasses or something. I can't remember.
I think we all need new glasses sometimes. So I'm Shane Sullivan. I'm the Vice President of Commercial for Priority Pass. And if you don't mind, I have a letter I'm going to read on behalf of the company today. And I do have copies here. Thank you very much. So, dear Council, Collinson, the owner of Priority Pass, has recently learned that the Common Use Lounge at T4 Sky Harbor International, currently operating as the club at PHX, will undergo a change of operator in the near future. It is our further understanding that the new operator will restrict credit card member access to travelers with American Express, Centurion, and Platinum cardholders only, and will no longer accept visits from Priority Pass members. Priority Pass is the largest membership-based global lounge access program, and as such, we would like to express our concern regarding the impact this change of operator will have on our members and Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. In October of this year, more than 12,000 visits were made by our U.S. and international members. Our annualized basis, this volume is close to 150,000 Priority Pass members who visit Sky Harbor each year. The impact of the change of operator will mean that a very important segment of Sky Harbor's travelers will no longer have lounge access. In addition to causing disruption to the traveler experience for 150,000 travelers annually, we also assume there is a revenue value to Sky Harbor that will be missed. We respectfully request that Sky Harbor provide alternative lounge space for Priority Pass members in order that our members continue to enjoy access to an airport lounge at America's friendliest airport.
Thank you. Maybe we could have Mr. Bennett come up and let's see. There he is. Could you perhaps speak to that issue?
Certainly, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. I'm also joined here today with by Charlene Reynolds, Assistant Aviation Director, and Tyler Mayhew, Special Projects Administrator, who oversees the lounge agreement. But the issue is that we do have a common use lounge in Terminal 4 on the North Concourse N4. That was under a demonstration period or a pilot program. And so we did a competitive solicitation for a new lounge operator. And the recommendation in front of you is for Manchester Airports Group. And they will open a dual branded lounge. One of the lounges, which was referred to here in the comments, is the Centurion Lounge, which is an American Express product. And then the other is their Escape Lounge, which is their own branded lounge product. And so that was the recommendation. The Priority Pass folks participated in the solicitation, and the evaluation committee thought that the Manchester Airports Group proposal of the Centurion and the Escape Lounge was a better product for Phoenix and the airport.
Thank you. I remember when you briefed me, we talked a little bit about this. I don't know if we want to take it off consent and do a separate vote, or are we okay with the way we voted? Yeah. Okay, we consider?
I'm fine with how we voted.
Yeah. Okay, so there's no motion for reconsideration, so the vote will remain. Thank you, Sue.
Madam Chair, I'm very comfortable as long as there was an open process. It went according to our rules, and this is your recommendation following that process, and they were able to participate. I see nothing wrong.
Me too. Thank you. Okay, back to information only items. Was there any preference on this, or should we just go ahead and move? Come on.
I'm sorry, is that it?
Do you want to review either of these information items, or we'll go ahead and, okay, thanks. So that brings us to item 15. And Keeney is here today. Welcome.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll start. I first want to introduce Keeney Knudsen as the new Street Transportation Director. You've worked with Keeney for several years. He's been the Assistant Director and City Engineer and served in that role very well, and now is here as the Street Transportation Director. And item 15 is an item that we all are very familiar with, the council offices in particular. This is one of the most common areas of complaints that you receive and that we hear about from our citizens is the condition of city streets. And as we all know, during the recession, the funding for street maintenance was reduced very, very much. And so we got behind on a lot of our streets and the ability to maintain those in a good condition. And so now, even though the resources are back up a little, we're behind, and we're trying to catch up. And so the council very wisely gave direction to staff to bring back some options, to take a look at ways that we could accelerate pavement maintenance. And in October, the City Council approved moving forward with some bonding to advance and accelerate the street maintenance. And so Keeney is here today to talk to you about how we can get going very quickly and moving on that plan very quickly, at least as a first step out of the gates. And so I'll turn it over to Keeney to give you more information.
Thank you, Mario. Madam Chair, Mayor, and Councilwoman Mendoza, we're happy to be here today to talk a little bit about this topic. As Mario noted, it's a very important topic to us and also to the council as well and the public. So, wanted to mention before I get started the presentation, the recommendation that we have before you was brought before our Citizens Transportation Commission right before Thanksgiving. They did approve it unanimously, so that same action is being requested of the council today. But what we're going to be talking about today is a phased approach to try to implement what council directed us to do. Make sure this is on. It's not moving. All right. Maybe. There we go. All right. So what we're coming to you to talk to you about is a phased approach to implement the action that was taken on October 3rd by City Council to advance Transportation 2050 streets revenues in the amount of $200 million to be able to accelerate pavement maintenance projects. The other part of that action was also to delay the Northeast Light Rail extension to the year 2050 for operating. And we are in the process still evaluating the impact that action will take. We're looking for opportunities to be able to, even though a lot of the operating revenues for that was originally scheduled for operating in 2034, but we're looking for opportunities to be able to look at what we can in the next 5 years to be able to use that money that's freed up with that action to delay that Northeast Light Rail extension project. And as we identify those opportunities, we'll be coming back before this body for recommendations on be able to further accelerate our pavement maintenance. So wanted to lay the groundwork a little bit of what we've been able to do. Over the last several years since Transportation 2050 has been passed, we have been working as a department to look more than 12 to 18 months out in advance for our pavement maintenance program. Through the action of our Citizens Transportation Commission and the council, we've been able to develop a 5-year pavement maintenance program. So we have already worked and been in front of this body and talking about projects all the way through fiscal year 2022. And so we were actually working on, before the action was taken by council in October, to identify projects for fiscal year 2023 to be bring before approval as well. But when the action was taken in October, we looked how was the best way for us to accelerate our projects to be able to implement the action taken by council. So what you see before you is Transportation 2050, both our current budgets and our current mileage, total mileage, and that's not just overlay, that's crack seals, micro seals, all the different type of treatments we do on pavements. That's what we have currently budgeted in our program through fiscal year 2022 and 23. And as you know, the Transportation 2050 revenues and treatments are dedicated towards our major streets. And I'm going to click through here and you'll see that our HERF revenues and our HERF budgets and our treatment miles are dedicated to our local streets and our minor collectors, and that's what we currently have budgeted. So all the work that we've done over the last few years with council's action to be able to identify these projects have put us in a position to accelerate, and I'm going to explain that acceleration right now. So the first part is we're going to be looking over the next basically year and a half, because we're already halfway through fiscal year 19. But in fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20, we're going to take all those projects we identified up through fiscal year 2022 and 23 and bring those forward and do those in the next year and a half. That is our first round of being able to accelerate the projects. But we know that the $200 million that the council authorized us to spend, directed us to spend, will take more than a year and a half to spend. It'll probably be 4 to 5 years program to be able to do that. So the next part of that is we're going to work to identify over the next 6 to 12 months additional projects that are going to fill in that gap, because we're going to be depleting all of those projects we've identified through the next 5 years in the next year and a half. And one other thing I wanted to point out, as well as something we've talked about with you as well, is as we look to identify those projects, we always look for the condition of the pavement. That's always a concern when we look at when we're identifying projects for overlays. But we also want to be able to bring in community input and your input as well, and the public's input as we look to identify those projects in fiscal years 21, 22, and 23 to fill those gaps. So that's something that's going to be an ongoing process, even from today going forward. Yes.
So I know you have a pretty scientific way that you measure the streets for mill and overlay. Are you going to still use that, but then maybe take the community input and the input from the council?
Madam Chair, that's a great question, and that's exactly what we're planning on doing. We're putting together a prioritization list that would be looking at not just the pavement condition, but also other factors, considering community input, looking at areas where we might have economic development opportunities as well. So there's different things we're going to consider, but we're going to work with council on those to be able to identify those projects. And we'll definitely be working with you during that time to vet those projects. So what you see up here is exactly what we're going to plan on doing, what we have identified for budget-wise to implement the $200 million of financing that Mario mentioned earlier. So what we're looking here is what we had budgeted, and that's red in the red and strikeout area, and then what our new budgets will be, adding that $200 million over the 5-year period. And what that translates also from the HERF side, I wanted to mention, even though there was no action taken on our local streets by council on October 3rd, we're looking for an opportunity to be able to do the same advancement through some cash we have available on the HERF side, which is our gas tax revenues, and we're going to look to do a similar treatment on our local streets as well and advance those. But you'll see that we don't have, in the later years of that plan, we don't have additional monies identified there, because we're going to basically taking monies from future years and spending them currently. But I will mention that one of the things we're looking at is hopefully if there's any movement in state HERF revenues down the street, that could potentially impact our ability to be able to do additional projects in the following 3 years as well. So now if you're looking at it just from the overlay And that's where the primary focus is, because the overlay is what really puts our streets in a really good condition. We have a lot of other treatments that we use, and all of them are great, but the overlays are the ones that have the most impact on our residents for the traveling public. And so what you see here is exactly what we had originally planned in those years and what we're looking to advance. So we're moving, for example, in the current year from 15 miles of overlays to 44 miles of overlays, and that continues on throughout the years of the plan. On the HERF side, you see a similar shift to the current next 2 fiscal years of additional overlay treatments we're going to do. But as I mentioned, because we're borrowing monies from the future, we're going to have a reduction in overlay miles unless some funding changes, as I mentioned before, at the state level, or some other changes that allows us to do more local streets with overlays. So what have we been doing also since October 3rd? One is we've been developing this plan. The other piece is working through conflict reviews. One thing we want to make sure, and we're very sensitive about when we do any of our overlay projects, is working with folks who are going to be working in the right-of-way. And the major users of our right-of-way are their utility partners. And so we've had a meeting with them a few weeks ago, and they're in the process right now of working through the list of projects we have identified for the next 2 fiscal years, and we're looking on getting their conflicts. So we're working with them. We expect to get their list of conflicts by the end of this week, and then we're going to be evaluating that. And our intent as we go through this is that we will make sure that the miles that we have identified will get done. We don't want to go and do a project and have it be torn up a week, or a month, or a year later. We're going to do our best to make sure that those conflicts are avoided. But what that will mean is we may have to substitute some streets out in our plan if we cannot avoid those conflicts with utilities or other people who are doing work in the right-of-way. And I would all mention, as well as what the Madam Chair was mentioning about having additional ways of being able to look at and identify those projects. We also are going to come and be involved in talking with the council about as we substitute those projects out. Want to get your input and solicit your input. We want to make sure those stay within the council districts that we've identified, but we also want to make sure they're hitting roadways that are in the condition we need to be able to be improved, but also roads that meet the needs of the public as well. So another piece of it, one thing that we don't talk a lot about is the fact that the bicycle side. When we are looking to put bicycle lanes in, one of our biggest tools that we use is our pavement maintenance program. Because when you put a new layer of asphalt on the street, that's when we have to go back and do restriping. And I'm not necessarily talking about when we have to take lanes of traffic out or anything like that. We're talking about just doing simple restriping that allows us to put bike lanes in. What you have listed up here was if we took the existing 5-year program that we have identified right now, these are the estimated number of bicycle miles that we would have over those 5 years. Now we're looking for those 5 years worth of bicycle miles to be advanced in the next 2 years. So we're going to work through that. We're not done evaluating that. There will be some, depending on the type of bicycle lanes we're looking to put in, there'll either be public notification or public involvement process as well, because we want to make sure that the community is on board with what we're doing with bicycle lanes associated with this action that the council took. So to our recommendation, as I mentioned, it was a kind of a 2-phase recommendation. The first one is to allow us to move forward with the pavement maintenance program of advancing our both our local and our major streets, and the program to be able to have the next 2 years to advance that, and then also to come back later to this body and to the council, full council, for action on our projects that will happen in fiscal years 21, 22, and 23. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. This is pretty exciting news. I'm one of those districts that hear a lot about the roadway conditions. And it's not just vehicles, but people that ride the bus. It's not a pleasant ride on the bus. And part of our transportation tax was to address the issue of transit, the bus system as well. So I think this is really exciting news. So do we have any questions?
I don't know.
You don't want to ask about sidewalks?
No, I already
Okay.
briefing with him.
Go ahead.
He has my list.
Okay.
Kitty, when you talk about taking this out to the community, how soon are you going to start that process?
Madam Chair, Mayor, I think that once we get the action on this next 2 years, which is those streets identified, we're going to have some conflict review, as I mentioned, with the utilities, and trying to fully define it, because we want to make sure our next 2 years are set in stone, and we have a solid plan for that. we're looking probably early next year or spring, and we'll work with each one of the council offices to identify neighborhood meetings, community meetings that you might want us to attend at, where we can collect that input. We were working at some various tools that might be available either through online, but also that we could come out to public meetings and people could have, their stickers that they could put up on a map. These are areas and roadways we're concerned about. And obviously we'll go back and look at our pavement condition data on those, but we want to have that input as we go through it. So I think as early as the spring, we'll be out there doing that.
And my concern is we already had the experience where you put some bike lanes in and then had to go remove them.
Mhm.
And I just want to be assured that we're going to notify the public and get their opinion whether they want them or not, because not everyone does. And then I also want to know, are you coordinating with ADOT and economic development?
Madam Chair, Mayor, I apologize. When you mentioned before about going out to the public, I thought you were talking about the future fiscal years, not the bike lane project. So the bike lanes will happen at least, I think we're usually at least looking about 3 to 6 months before we go and do those pavement treatments. We're having that input or notification process.
Oh, okay.
And as far as ADOT and community economic development, that's exactly part of what we're doing on the conflict review, making sure that we're working. There's a lot of ADOT projects, especially on the I-17 corridor. We want to make sure we understand where those are going to be ending so that they don't impact where we're going to be putting our overlay projects. And on economic development, exactly one of those priorities we're looking at to make sure where we make sure we're having the most benefit for our residents and for our businesses that are in the city.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks again. And just maybe to mention, this doesn't really delay any of the current light rail projects, correct? This is just additional funding that we found to help out our roads. So we move forward with light rail. Okay, great.
Madam Chair.
So with that, a motion?
Move staff's recommendations forward to the council for the approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Great work. Appreciate it. And talking about her funds, our next item is the state and federal legislative agenda, and maybe Frank can share with us a little bit about her funding. And welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Mayor, and Councilmember Mendoza. Today, we are presenting the legislative agenda for the to Aviation and Transportation Subcommittee on the specific topics that relate to this committee. So it's just that portion of the total agenda that you guys will see today. And for our viewing audience, I just want to remind everyone where we're at in the process. We've gone to the city departments to ask for their impact or their ideas for the legislative process this year. They've come back to us, we've compiled them, met with the council members and briefed them and have their reactions to it, and have put together the legislative draft priorities for the subcommittee's review. And today we'll take off with those. I want to introduce, to cover our state agenda, Yesenia Dote, who is our manager of state relations, and she knows many of the folks in the room because in her prior life, she did a lot of work with Support Sky Harbor. So this is a great audience for her today. And so she will begin with our guiding principles and then our legislative priorities for the state.
Thank you. Can I have a clip?
Yes.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, Mayor, and Councilwoman Mendoza. So as Frank mentioned, I will begin with the guiding principles. And our guiding principles are an important structure for us to help us represent the city at the state capitol and react to bills as they're being introduced throughout the legislative session. That being said, we will bring bills in front of council in policy session for approval before we take any official action. And the first one is to preserve shared revenues, which our monies are allocated to the city by the state and make up over 30% of our budget. Also to oppose any unfunded mandates, to protect the city's local authority. Sorry, having clicker issues. There you go. Sorry about that. And then also to maintain sustainable water resources. This is important as the state continues to have discussions on for future droughts and water shortages, and as they work on a plan to protect the water in Lake Mead, we want to make sure that the city is involved in those discussions. And so these principles have been recommended for the past several years, and we continue to recommend them as they help us react to legislation, as I mentioned, and in state legislative matters as they relate to aviation and transportation issues. The first item that we'll be looking at as it relates to transportation is from the street department. And that is a revision to Title 34 of the Arizona Revised Statutes, which governs how public entities can construct projects. Last year, there were numerous changes made to this title as it relates to the construction manager at risk statutes, and one of the outstanding items is expanding the definition of who can lead a design build team. And so staff recommendation is to support efforts to lead to this revision within Title 34. Secondly, since 1991, the state taxes on gas, fuel have not been increased or indexed for inflation, and this tax helps pay for road maintenance and infrastructure through HERF. Last year there was an effort to increase HERF funding by increasing the VLT tax on alternative fuel vehicles. And so moving into the next session, one of the items that legislators are looking at is potentially increasing or indexing the gas tax. And so staff recommends being supportive and involved in these efforts as we move through the session. Third, as it relates to small wireless facilities, in 2017, the state passed legislation related to this. And over the past year, city residents and small businesses have raised concerns. There is the potential for legislation to be introduced next year to address some of these concerns. And that being said, staff recommends supporting efforts that would give more local control to the city related to public right-of-ways, permitting, and inspections in order to be able to address some of the concerns that have been raised by residents and small businesses. Moving on to aviation matters. The first one is for Luke Air Force Base, which is an economic driver for the region and for the city. Staff will continue to monitor any legislation that may potentially impact the operations of the Air Force Base. Similarly, we will monitor any drone legislation that may impact the city operations at Sky Harbor or any of our critical infrastructure. And these are both items that we do at the federal level as well. Lastly, as it relates to rental car operations, a new private rental car market has emerged, and in many cases, they operate at Sky Harbor without following any state or local regulation. These businesses are competing directly with airport rental car companies, but they're not paying taxes and fees that the rental companies at Sky Harbor pay. So staff recommends being supportive of efforts to apply one set of regulatory and tax requirements for all vehicle rentals at the state level. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions before I pass it over to Clark.
You know, I always have to change my mind.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm concerned about coming forward, and I was talking to Tony this morning about it, are the scooters.
Oh.
And I would like to see something that's statewide that says that they have to have a driver's license and perhaps put a limit on the speed. If they're going to be operating in bike lanes, I think they need to know traffic law. I'm very concerned it's causing problems in other cities, and we should get ahead of it, but it needs to be consistent throughout the valley so that everyone knows what the rules are. So could we pursue something like that?
I think that's a great idea. I know that in San Francisco, they've had problems. I think they've outlawed them because of the safety issues and because people don't know how to operate correctly.
We'll add that to our agenda.
Councilwoman Mayor and Councilwoman Mendoza, I will go over the federal agenda and the pieces that are on aviation and transportation. So the federal agenda has two guiding principles, the first being to promote fiscal sustainability and the second being to protect local authority. So on behalf of the Aviation Department, the agenda includes tracking FAA Next Gen and aerospace management because as it can impact flight paths over the city. Continue to track airport planning and environmental policy changes as it can impact operations at all of Phoenix's own airports, and continue to track your own legislation as it can impact operations at the various airports. In addition, we will continue to track airport security requirements for any unfunded mandates that it could place on the airport, continue to track TSA staffing levels as it can impact wait times at checkpoints within the airport, and then continue to support Luke Air Force Base in any way possible. On behalf of the Public Transit Department, we will continue to advocate for federal funding for high-capacity transit projects within the city. We will continue to look for long-term and stable solvency solutions to the Highway Trust Fund issue that's been ongoing as with the gas tax at the federal level as well. And then in addition, continue to advocate for the alternative fuel tax credit. This is a tax credit that our bus system utilizes within the city. And then on behalf of the Streets Department, we will continue to advocate for federal funding models that continue to increase dollars for local surface transportation projects. We will continue to advocate for Buy America changes that allow the program to work the same in different agencies. Right now, there's some differences between how the FTA looks at Buy America issues and FHWA looks at them, as well as advocate for federal dollars for flood mitigation and stormwater infrastructure projects within the city. We'll continue to work with the federal government on congestion mitigation air quality dollars and making sure that the region's able to use those dollars where they see fit and where we can best utilize them. And then also continue to advocate for freight transportation dollars so we can get federal funds to help move freight transportation within the region and then also out of the region as well.
Any questions on the federal?
Yeah, any questions?
Yeah, of course. Could you tell me what, in the report you talk about biometric exit screening? What's that?
There has been some talk at times from FAA about requiring biometric screening as you exit the airport. The fear of the Aviation Department is that that would be an unfunded mandate that would be put on the airport that the Aviation Department that would have to absorb. So if that was put on as a requirement through FAA, we would just want to make sure that they helped us pay for that would require. So it would require that every person as they leave the boarding area, they would be tracked so that the airport knew exactly who was coming and going.
Sounds like a huge adventure. Like the technology, expense, I mean, yeah, I can understand. Have other airports done that?
No. And it's just something that we want to track because
But
we would not
around.
want that cost put upon us.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you. We need a motion.
I'd move staff's recommendation as
Second.
amended.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have fun at the legislature. And our last item today is a discussion of airport concession street pricing policy. And Mr. Bennett, you have several people with you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Mayor, and Councilwoman Mendoza. I'm joined here this morning with Charlene Reynolds, Assistant Aviation Director, Christina Madsen, Deputy Aviation Director for Business and Properties, and then Paula Kuchars, our Aviation Superintendent, who's responsible for our concession program at Sky Harbor. And what we would like to do today is present to you a recommendation on an amendment or a modification to the city's street pricing policy that is in place at the airports. So I will ask Charlene Reynolds and Chris Mattson to begin the presentation this morning.
We'll start off with Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Good morning, Mayor, Madam Chair, and Councilwoman Mendoza. We recently received a request from two of our food and beverage operators, SSP America and HMS Host, to modify the existing street pricing policy. First, I'd like to provide you with some background on street pricing. In the early 1990s, the concession trend at airports changed and airports began to establish street pricing policies. Street pricing means the items that you purchase at the airport are the same as they are on the street. So the McDonald's hamburger, the pack of gum, and the M&Ms are all the same as you would get in your community. Today, a majority of the North American airports have adopted pricing policies for their concession programs. Pricing policies are impacted by many factors. Each solicitation takes into consideration local factors such as the rent, lease terms, labor rates, passenger demographics, and industry practices. Ensuring that all the terms are outlined in the solicitation documents is critical so that the operators can create a solid financial pro forma before the proposal is submitted. Street pricing improves customer satisfaction as it creates customer confidence in the value of their decision to purchase. Price is a factor influencing purchasing decisions for all travelers, including business travelers. Passengers may spend more knowing they're not being overcharged. By creating value for the customer through street pricing, also provides reasonable profit to the concession operators and a reasonable revenue stream to the airport. Paula is now going to walk you through the pricing policy background here at Sky Harbor and the recent requests made by our business partners. And finally, she'll discuss alternatives that we're proposing to you to assist in balancing the best interest of the airport, our customers, and the airport tenants.
Thank you, Chris, and good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. Sky Harbor implemented a straight street pricing policy in 1996 and rolled it out with the Terminal 3 Retail Concessions RFP. The policy was consistently applied then to all new concession contracts at Sky Harbor. In mid-2015, we were approached by SSP and Host requesting to modify the street pricing policy to street plus 10% due to an increased cost of labor and the cost of goods sold. The city modified the policy, which provided financial relief to SSP and Host, and then this change was applied to all airport concessions contracts. Additionally, in 2017, Council awarded SSP and Host 4 new food and beverage locations. Each of the units will generate close to $1 million in annual sales with approximately $600,000 in additional cash flow to SSP and Host. Recently, we received a request from SSP and Host to modify the current Street Plus 10 to Street Plus 15 to cover projected higher labor costs associated with increases in the Arizona minimum wage requirements and demands from organized labor. Staff requested additional information from the operators to justify the additional increase, and we had an independent review from our concessions consultant. Following the review, it was concluded that without a price increase or a change to the pricing policy, the operators' projected annual gross profits would be positive. Under the current street pricing policy, there is no reason that prohibits SSP and Host from adjusting their prices as comparable street side locations also adjust to accommodate labor increases. As you know, Sky Harbor has a very successful food and beverage program, recently named by the Matador Network the best airport food in the U.S. The food and beverage program at Terminal 4 generates $1,900 a square foot, and when compared to other similar-sized airports, is a top-performing airport. Sales per square foot is the metric operators look to maximize, because high sales per square foot generally maximizes profits. So in consideration of the request from SSP and Host, staff developed alternatives to continue to balance the needs of our customers, the airport, and our tenants. So all concession operators will be required to implement three alternatives: cost reductions, marketing efforts, and the adoption of innovative technology to drive sales. These alternatives will help them achieve additional cost savings and enhance revenues. Once these initiatives are taken by all concession operators, the city would allow no more than an additional 2% be added to the aviation concession street pricing policy to street plus 12%. Any changes to the policy would extend to all retail and food and beverage concession contracts for consistent application of the policy. Based on this information, staff is requesting that the Aviation and Transportation Subcommittee recommend to the City Council a modification to the airport concession street pricing policy to street plus 12%. Require all concession operators to implement the alternatives to reduce costs and to amend all concession contracts. And we will now be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So I have a question. As far as cost reduction, don't you think they would do that anyway? I mean, they're in business to make money, so I would assume that Host and SSP would be looking at that already.
Madam Chair, yes, we would expect that is in their wheelhouse to do those things. We want to make sure that we know that those are being done so that you know, that their revenues can be enhanced, and that would be, you know, supportive of increased revenues for them.
I guess my question is, how would you do that?
Madam Chair to Mayor. So we would require the operators to give us a report. We could do something in the agreement amendments that require them to submit something to us that shows how they've reduced their costs. So some airports have done that, but that's an idea.
Sounds like you're increasing a cost to ensure they're trying to cut a cost. I don't quite get that. It sounds like big government. Truthfully, I was here when we started this, and it was because we had one provider.
Right.
We had one contract, and there was no competition.
Yeah.
And now there is competition, and if they want to have high sales, I think they will continue to be very competitive in the food costs. Frankly, I would be comfortable removing it altogether at this point, but I do not agree with what's being proposed to us.
Okay. Thank you. Councilwoman.
Many of the employees are union organized, which add cost to the employers. Are there more unions employees at the airport versus what you might find outside the airport?
Councilman, Madam Chair and Councilman Mendoza, the current food and beverage operators both have a union contracts for their employees. That does not necessarily translate to the other concessionaires or to what you would see on the street. You know, we are a right-to-work state, so union participation is less evident in the mom-and-pop kind of operations on street side. But they are all subject to the Arizona minimum wage requirements.
But it still adds a cost to the employers, correct? To the both HMS Host and SSP, right?
We are not privy to their union contracts, so I could not answer that. That is what they're telling us, but we don't have that information firsthand.
Okay. Also, we know that the minimum wage is going to go up, and that's another cost, right? To both? Because in 2019, it's going to, right now it's at $10.50 an hour. It's going to increase in 2019 to $11 per hour. 2020, it's going to increase to $12 an hour. So that adds, right, more cost to employers, correct?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Mendoza, it applies to the entire state.
Right.
So street side or,
Focusing on the airport here.
yeah, the airport would, just like anyone else in the city or the state, be subject to those requirements. So does it add cost to the airport? operators? Yes. Does it add cost to the street side operators? Yes, as well.
And there's also other fees, for example, security, badging, parking, storing food offside. So all that adds cost to both, right? HMS host and SSP, correct?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Mendoza, you are correct. It is expensive, more expensive to operate at an airport because of those got tongue tied, because of those additional costs. So you are correct. It is much more expensive to operate at an airport versus a street side location.
Thank you. Also, both host and SSP, they have a mandatory MAG that they have to meet, which is MAG stands for the minimum annual guarantee, and they both have to abide by this, or 13%, right, each or something? I don't know.
So, Madam Chair, to Councilwoman Mendoza, so the minimum annual guarantee is set, and back in 2010, for the current contracts, they were bid. So both SSP and host bid the amount to us, and they were evaluated on that. Going forward, we have taken that out, that they don't bid, we set the MAG. So the minimum annual guarantee is the threshold. They have to make that minimum payment. It's either that or a percentage of their gross sales, whichever is greater. So for food, it's 13%, and for alcohol, it's 16%. SSP has not exceeded the MAG that they proposed, and host has.
Okay. But they both have an obligation to pay the city, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So at the end of the day, it's not in the best interest of the both companies who have the current beverage food and contract at the airport to skyrocket their prices, right? If they have to meet this, and they have an obligation to the city, so it's not in their best interest to just skyrocket hamburgers and M&Ms, right?
It would sell less.
Yeah, it would sell less.
What?
They have
Yeah.
less sales.
Yeah.
So I don't think, and because there's a competition already in the airport, I don't think, and all the costs that they have to go through, I don't think it's a bad idea to remove the cap, like you were saying, of the cost. So
Thank you. Yeah, I agree that there is competition at the airport now, and I think that helps regulate some of the pricing that's going on. And I know for a fact that a lot of the local restaurants that are in the airport, I've talked to them, they actually already pay more than minimum wage, and so they have to compete, and I think competition's healthy. We do have a card here, but he wished not to speak, but I guess I want to offer it up to Scott Welding. Yes, no? You? Do we have any questions? Okay, no, I don't think so. Yeah, I think I'm in favor of allowing what they requested. I think they know best what they're looking for, but I'm happy to take a motion
Want a
if you want.
motion?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I'd make the motion to discontinue the airport street pricing policy and allow the market competition between food and beverage operators to guide the pricing. I would ask that the food operators submit revised pricing menus to aviation staff by January 30th, 2019, and that the new food pricing menus would be effective by July 15th, 2019.
Okay.
second that.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We still have no cards from call to the public, and looking at our future agenda items, is there anything that you would like to add? Anything you would like to forward earlier?
Give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to have an updated report from public transit on safety, on what's happening at the light rail, the incidents, how we're counteracting it. Has it improved? We put extra people on there. What's the result? And is there a continuing problem in buses? I'm pretty sure I saw something, a a couple things that have happened recently that were pretty
The bus,
scary.
yeah.
And to ask how we're dealing with that.
I think that's an excellent idea, so we'll move that forward. Anything else? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.